Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built. And this week, I know I said it last week, but this week I am going to drive the Frankenhauler. All right, guys, welcome back. And those who've been following know that this is the Frankenhauler. This might appear to be a 1954 Ford F600 truck, but it's actually secretly a Toyota Coaster bus underneath. If you missed the last episode where I was trying and struggling to get the clutch to bleed, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up. And like always, do the things like and subscribe and comment. That all helps out that crazy algorithm. So, as I mentioned last week, I was playing around and trying to get this truck driving, and I thought I'd get it. I was so close, but I could not bleed the clutch. And you guys actually are fantastic and gave me a bunch of suggestions that I now have a pretty good guess at why I couldn't bleed it. I think you guys nailed it. But there was also some really good comments on how to bleed a clutch system, which I thought was quite clever. I'm going to try some of them out. So in any case, let's go back over here and delve into it, and I'll show you what we were doing. All right, another thing that I wanted to just mention, over the last few videos, I've had all sorts of issues with the camera. Like I mentioned, it was falling over, and I built a frame around the base of it to sort of give it some impact protection. And a couple of you sent me links to other YouTubers who had come up with better ways of doing things. And I've changed my whole setup, and it's so much better than hanging something off the ceiling or whatever. I'll show you now exactly what I have set up. And what I have is this here. So I have the camera on a stand that's got wheels on it, which is absolutely fantastic because I can just grab this pistol grip and slide the camera up and down, move it where I need to, but it's extremely stable because it's got this big heavy base on it and it's not going anywhere. All right, so let's jump straight into it, and I'll take you under here and I'll show you what I think my issue is and why I could not get this clutch to bleed. See, this is my clutch master cylinder, and what I think is happening is there is a piston inside. When the pedal is released, that piston needs to go all the way forward and basically opens up the inlet for the master cylinder. And I have a sneaky suspicion that I played around with this pedal and adjusted it so that it is actually at fully up. It is not actually completely retracting that master cylinder. So I'm going to get up under there now and readjust it, and I have a sneaking suspicion that is going to fix my problem.
So I got under, and it's very awkward to lie down under the dash, but I managed to adjust the pedal so that it was definitely going to the full extent, and then set up my vacuum bleeder.
All right, well, I have backed off the pedal all of the way, so it is definitely disengaging and it's still not bleeding. Now I'm just trying the vacuum bleeder at the moment, going from the bottom, and again there could just be too much line to get vacuum that way. Now there are a few other good suggestions, great suggestions on the pressure bleeder from last week. Basically it's a cap that goes onto the top of your reservoir and pressurizes the whole system, so it forces fluid all the way through. And I find that's a really good way to bleed brakes, but I don't have a cap that will fit this truck. The suggestion of 3D print one is brilliant. I didn't even think about it. There's so many things I can 3D print. It's just more a matter of designing it or getting on and having a look and see if I can find one and I can modify it so that I can actually make up a fitting and fit it to the top of the reservoir, which I think is worthwhile. But for now, next idea is to reverse bleed the clutch. Now, lots of people have said that they've had a lot of luck with reverse bleeding clutch systems, and some people were saying that they use different types of syringes and things to connect into the nipple of the slave cylinder and then force fluid in from the bottom all the way up. that's not a bad idea, but there's a better one that a lot of you told me about. I've never heard of, but I think is brilliant. And it's very simple, and we're going to give that a go now. All right, so this is a suggestion that several of you gave me, and I'd never heard of before, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's great to pass this on to others. Is you can see here I've set up a hose from the bleed nipple from the brake caliper, and I've connected that to the bleed nipple on the slave cylinder. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up the bleed nipple on the brakes, which are already bled, and basically use the brake pedal to force brake fluid out of this nipple and backwards through the clutch system. So I'll reverse bleed the clutch system using the brakes, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So let's open both nipples up and give it a go. I think it's working. It's not leaking. I think that might have done it. The fluid level has gone down, and now it seems to be holding relatively stable, which means it's doing a circuit and it's no longer taking it out of the reservoir. It's taking it out and then pumping it back in through the clutch. So I think we've done it. What a brilliant method. Let's not count my chickens yet, but I think I'm feeling confident.
So I get underneath, tighten up the fittings, and remove the connector hose.
There is a clutch. We have clutch. Oh, yeah! Finally! Oh, yes, finally! Oh, that is so good. I have to thank you guys so much for your suggestions. There was several of you who suggested that. I have never seen that method or heard of that method before. I am not a mechanic by any means, but hopefully some of you got something out of that, because I think that's brilliant. That is a really simple way of bleeding a clutch system. Just using the brakes. Just open up both nipples with the hose on and just pump the brake until the fluid went all the way through. We have a clutch. The clutch is working. I actually bought a new clutch slave cylinder, but I wanted to try some of these methods first. And I really thought it was the piston that wasn't traveling all the way, but that didn't seem to help. It didn't seem to be the issue. It was just needed to be reverse bled. Obviously, there was just too much air in the line or something. I don't know why, but it worked. So that is fantastic. And we can move towards getting this thing actually running. Yes!
So it's time to tick off my checklist, and one of the first things is to pre-oil the turbo. It's on the instructions of the turbo, so I remove the fitting and use a oil can to do that, and then check the oil in the rest of the engine. And I had actually filled it before, but it's always worth double checking. Then power steering fluid, so I top up the fluid as far as I can and then just steer left and right, and then keep topping, keep steering until it doesn't take any more fluid, and that should be reasonably well bled.
All right, we have brakes, we have clutch, we have power steering. Next thing I need to do, tail shaft. So I sent this tail shaft off to the guys at Daniel Engineering, and they were fantastic and got back to me nice and quick. So basically what I need to do, because I moved the engine back 240 millimeters, I got this section of the tail shaft shortened by 240 millimeters. So I'm going to bolt that up, and we are one step closer to driving.
So this is one of the super simple, straightforward pieces of just re-bolting everything in. With it shortened and balanced, it fits in perfectly.
All right, the tail shaft is now fitted, but the last thing we need to do is I've got a bunch of these vacuum lines under here that are still hanging around and not going where they need to. I've also got a handbrake hanging down under there, so we've still got a few things to do underneath the truck.
So it's more work lying on my back underneath the truck, and it's not that interesting for you guys to actually watch, but I am tidying up the vacuum lines. I've loosely put them in place previously, but I'm pulling them out, re-straightening them, re-bending them, and tucking them away, and making sure everything sort of fits as nicely and neatly as I can do it. I also need to make a hole in the firewall to run the vacuum line to the brake booster. With the hole drilled, I fit a rubber grommet for the edge and then feed my vacuum line through.
All right, so I spent a lot of time under the truck. I've connected up all the vacuum lines now. So this is the solenoid for the exhaust brake. I won't get under the truck. It's hard to see anything. And I also connected up a vacuum line here. That is coming up to my brake booster under the dash. So now I have all the vacuum lines connected. The last thing I need to do is to come in here and at least for starters, connect up the bare minimum of this wiring so we can start the truck.
So to get the truck to be able to drive, I first of all need to make heads and tails of this wiring, and first thing is going through finding all of the grounds and making sure they're all grounded, and then just connecting up the main items like the ignition barrel, basically steering column, the gauges, etc.
All right, so it's been a couple of days over the last couple of episodes spent on my back underneath the truck doing the brake lines, the clutch lines, the vacuum lines, tail shaft, a bunch of things that you guys can't really see. Now, all the wiring is cobbled together now, and I have been working off of a checklist of what I need to do to get the Frankenhauler to drive. I have oil, check. Brakes, check. Wiring, check. Vacuum, check. Power steering fluid, check. Tail shaft, check. So there's a bunch of other things that I need to add, but they're not super important to actually just get it moving and just see if it actually will start and work. I am always nervous when I get to this stage, particularly when I've been playing around with things, but all we have to do now is connect up the power here, and then we can get in and see if we'll actually get it to start. Oh, well, there's no smoke I can see at the moment, so that's a good start. All right, I have my dash right here on the passenger seat. Where else would you have it? All the wiring is just totally cobbled together at the moment. None of it is stowed where it needs to go, and all we want to do now is just see if we have power, and then see if it will actually run. So, we have power. We have glow plugs going out. Let's make sure we're in neutral. Oh, like a kitten. Straight first kick. That was nothing off camera. Clutch in. First gear. Hey! Yeah, this is me driving. Yeah! Hey! All right! Yes!
Now, it appears that there may be a little bit of a leak from under the truck, but that could be water because the truck was sitting outside last week. There's no obvious leaks under the truck.
Woohoo! We have a running, driving truck. Yes! That is huge progress. Oh, that's motivation right there. That is just things just working the way they're supposed to work. That's a lot of time. I mean, I haven't changed a lot of things on this, so it should work, but it's still always that thing in the back of your head that you're waiting for. You're not sure how things are going to go, and I always get nervous, but it purrs like a kitten. Starts, drives, moves, drives, everything is working the way it's supposed to, and I am over the moon. That's good. It's actually ergonomically good. The power steering's nice and light and easy. Everything is working quite nicely and smoothly. Yes. So, now it runs. I can definitely easily move it around the place. That makes life so much easier. I don't have to push it and tow it with another car anymore and stuff. That is big, a big step in the right direction. So the next step is I need to do something about that wiring, because I can't just have the dash sitting on the passenger seat and just everything else just being a big ugly mess. It's all sort of just cobbled together, hanging down underneath the truck. So I need to have a look at the wiring and see if we can sort something out there.
All right, so time to sort out this absolute nightmare of wiring we have. Thankfully, I labelled everything when I took it out of the truck, but as I go, I'm sort of testing circuits, so making sure I've got headlights and indicators, etc. that work, the wipers and all of that stuff. And then I can start going through and tucking it up under the dash and tidying it all away. Now, some of these bits are redundant and they're not necessary, and that is the point of going through this and testing circuits as I go. So I drill a hole through the bulkhead, and then I can start feeding all the wires through and feeding through the headlight wires through into the engine bay.
All right, so I've put the original grommet coming through my bulkhead here. I need to touch up some of the paint, but all of these wires are going to be bunched together, and these are the wires for the front headlights and indicators, etc. They need to be extended and that sort of thing. That's fine. I'm just getting everything laid out for now. Coming into the inside, I've done a lot of tidying. So inside the dash, I have tidied up a lot of stuff. It doesn't necessarily look like it, but I have the column wired. I have all the pedals wired. I have this loom coming across here. This is for the dash cluster, but it's also got a few redundant light switches here that they'll get rid of. I do want to keep a hazard switch, but I'm going to obviously put a better switch than that, something that suits the truck a little bit better. So I've got this side reasonably well separated out. Now I've managed to unplug things and get rid of wires. This, I believe, is a lot of the stuff for the old bus door. So that is gone. This is actually, looks like these relays, I believe, are actually headlight relays that have been put in at some stage and they still function, so I'm going to keep them for now. I've got my fuse box in here. I want to make a mount so that this can mount up the top, up above the fuse box. So let's get this mounted and then see if we can cull more of the wiring without having to actually pull the whole thing apart and work out what everything does individually.
All right, let's get back to what I really enjoy doing, and that is making a bracket. So I sketch out what I want onto a piece of sheet steel and then cut it out with the bench shear, drill in my mounting holes, and then I can head over to the brake and just fold up the edges to give it a little bit of strength, give it a coat of my favourite enamel, and after lunch it's nice and dry. It's all ready to come back and rivet on the relay panel and then mount it up into place under the dash. With a whole bunch of the other wires, and spend a whole bunch of time here making sure everything is connected where it needs to be connected, trying to work out which circuits I can disconnect, and then tuck it all up under the dash and tidy it all away using a bunch of cable ties, etc. to make a nice neat interior of the truck.
Okay, so that was several more hours of tucking wires away. So underneath the dash here, I still have a few hanging down. That was the original wires for the stereo. I've still got the wire for the heater here that I need to connect up. This is the windscreen washer. There are no washer jets on this truck at the moment, but I'll probably add them. But that is still wired in there that I need to put through into the engine bay, into a washer bottle somewhere. We have a couple of other things here. This is sort of heater, front and rear heater. So there's some wires that I can wire up at some stage once I've worked that out. But basically everything else is tucked up out of the way underneath. Quite difficult. I had to extend some bits and then going through and checking things and blowing fuses, but now it's in and it works the way it did. So inside the cab is good, but all this stuff here, I've just cable tied it up out of the way. None of it is stowed away nicely. Everything is all over the place. So we need to do something about all of this mess under the truck.
So this is organising chaos. So all of this wiring did live under the bus previously, but because I have changed the whole configuration of the bus around, I have moved the engine back a whole long way and the seating position and everything else, there is so much extra wire here that I don't need. The wiring loom also seems to have a whole bunch of redundant connectors, etc. on it that were never used in the bus. I can tell because of how sort of old and dirty they are, and they're sort of taped aside. Obviously, there were lots of options with this wiring loom, and they just made one loom and used the bits they needed. In any case, I am spending all the time here to tuck it up out of the way and try to make it as neat as possible without cutting and splicing a million wires.
All right, well, down under the truck, there is a whole bunch of wiring tucked away. It's not super neat, but I didn't want to cut anything and remove it. I just wanted to get it all up there, and everything is now mounted under the truck. I do have to do the handbrake. That's the last thing here. Now, behind the cab, there's still a bit of wiring to play with back here, but not very much. I've got most of it. Inside the cab, I am very happy with the progress in here that we actually have all of the wiring sorted on the truck. All right, well, that was probably a shorter video for you guys, but there was a lot of work for me down there getting all of those wires tucked away. Getting all the wires tucked up under the dash and nice and neat and everything functioning. I blew a couple of fuses along the way. I kept checking things. The wipers plumbed up. All of the headlights are wired, at least so that they could run with the old bus headlights. I still need to extend that loom and actually wire up the proper headlights and indicators and things like that. I need to replace them. I need to get some 24-volt stuff to actually work in the truck, but that's all fine. Underneath, that big mess is sorted out as well. So the whole truck is, wiring-wise, is almost sorted besides that tiny little bit at the back. It's just, that is such a big job out of the way. And I can just do this. How good is that? It runs, it drives. On the key, super simple. Couldn't be better, couldn't be easier. I am over the moon. Another good week. I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in the US after World War II, GIs were returning home and bringing with them small European sports cars such as the MG, Alfa Romeos and Jaguars. This prompted the big manufacturers to take notice. GM went on to build the EX122 concept, which went on to become the Corvette, and Ford came up with the Vega. Vince Gardner was commissioned by Henry Ford II to build a lightweight two-seat roadster. It was 2 years in production, and it was built on a Ford Anglia chassis with a one-off, handmade, lightweight aluminium body. It featured pop-up headlights and was powered by a 2.2-litre flathead V8, making 60 horsepower. Celebrities of the day, such as Groucho Marx and Howard Hughes, were offered private viewings by Henry Ford II of the Vega. Ultimately, though, it did not go into production, with Ford producing the Thunderbird instead. As for the Vega, it remained in Ford's possession until 2006, when it was sold to private collector Sam Pack for $385,000, and it remains in his collection to this day.
All right, that was a big step forward this week. I am very happy with the fact that it drives. The Frankenholer drives, it runs. That clutch bleeding method was fantastic. I am definitely going to keep that in the old memory bank. All the wiring, or the bulk of the wiring, is hidden away, and actually that is a huge step forward, because that was something I was sort of dreading, and now it's actually hidden and relatively done.
Yeah, thanks to the comments, it was super helpful, wasn't it? Finding out how to bleed the...
Oh, that's it. You guys, I learned so much from you guys. It's great. And things like that are absolutely brilliant. So
sometimes you
keep
can't
it
see
coming.
what's right in front of you. You know, like they can't see the wood for the trees, or...
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Thought for the day. Yes, as always, like, subscribe, and
Patreon.
Help them out. And I think...
Watch the videos a day early without
No ads.
That is the key. All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Hey, guys. In the US, Vince Gardner was commissioned by Henry Ford II to build a lightweight road speedster.
What?
I didn't know, so I just came up with something I thought would sound fun. Commissioned by Henry Ford II to build a lightweight speed roadster.
What?
Seat roadster. No, lightweight two-seat roadster. And was powered by a 6.6 litre flathead V8, making 620 horsepower.
A 6.6 litre? No.
I don't know.
2.2 litre.
I don't know. Why would I know?
Because it's written right in front of you.
That'd be ridiculous. 6.2 litre. It featured pop-up headlights and was powered by a 2.2 litre flathead 6-head.
What? What are you saying?
Flathead V8.
It's not that hard.
It is.